All right, so I thought with a week left before the NFL draft, I would make a video talking about some of the prospects I think will be there at 14 for the Ravens and the people that I like, and then maybe some day two, day three picks later on in the draft that I think will be good fits for the Ravens. Um, just as a summary, I kind of went through what I think is going to happen with the picks before the Ravens. Important thing to know is these top 10 picks, I don't think really any of them are going to be there at 14. The order might be different in what they get picked at, but I don't see any of these guys really being there at 14. The only slight possibility is maybe Ruben Bain. His arm length is a lot shorter than what scouts want for an outside edge player, but I think his tape is there. I think his drive is there. And I also think he'll be a pretty good fit for more of an inside defensive end, defensive tackle fit. So I think there'll be a team that likes him inside the 10. Maybe the Miami right tackle, slight chance maybe he dropped, but again, I don't think he'll be there at 14. I think one of the teams ahead of us takes him, and I don't think we will trade up for anyone. I think we're going to stay at our spot and wait someone to come down. So I'm going to go through each of the position groups just for the first round, and then see who I think will be there and who I think will be a good fit. Um, Obviously, we don't need a quarterback, we need a running back, so let's start at receiver. The first guy I like is Makai Lemon. He's a bit of a shorter guy. He's around the same stature as Zay Flowers, but he plays the wide receiver position a little bit more different. He's a lot more aggressive. Kind of plays similar to how Steve Smith played. He plays a lot more physical, a lot more taller than he actually is, and wouldn't be the worst idea to go wide receiver in the first round. Do you trust Rashad Bateman to be your two? I like Devontae Walker a lot, but obviously he has questions of can he be the three? Do we sign D Hop in free agency after the draft? I would feel a lot better about the group. But if Zay Flowers gets injured, I don't trust this wide receiver group to step up. Um, I wouldn't hate Makai Lemon at a first round pick. I think it's a pretty solid wide receiver, but I don't know if I want someone that's kind of the same size as Zay Flowers. The only other wide receiver that could be there at 14 is Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson's a lot bigger, taller. Um, the big red flag with him is his injury concerns. Jordan Tyson is the number one wide receiver in the draft, and if it wasn't for his health issues, he would definitely go top 10, maybe even top five. Um, but he's had injuries all throughout his college. He's had an injury right now. He's trying to rehab. He couldn't go into the combine and participate. He's having to do his own personal workouts before the draft. And the thing is, if the medical's clear, he's not going to be there at 14. I think if another team will take him, but if he's there at 14, that probably means the injury concerns are still there. And I think he's a guy that probably goes later in the first round. So I don't know if I want to take a risk on an injury-prone wide receiver. If the Ravens want to trade back, Omar Cooper Jr. I like a lot. He does play slot. Zay Flowers is more of a slot guy, but his strengths are a little bit more different than Flowers. So I think you would complement a wide receiver group pretty well. I'm a really big fan of him. I think he's one of the better wide receivers you get in the second half of the draft. And if they don't like a guy there, they could trade back. Um, Tight end is obviously a huge need. There's only really one tight end that's worth a first round grade. Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. He's been mocked a ton to the Ravens recently, but I would absolutely hate this pick. And I'll tell you why. He's super athletic. He's a pretty good receiver. He can make some nice contested catches. Um, but Mark Andrews is kind of our receiver tight end. And with how we have our new offensive coordinator and how we have our scheme, especially for our run scheme, I think it's going to be pretty important to get a number two tight end that can block and maybe catch a little bit. That new tight end that we signed in free agency, he's going to be our Charlie Kolar blocking tight end. But Kenyon Sadiq cannot block at all. He is basically just a wide receiver that lines up as tight end. He's very athletic, but he does have a 10% drop rate, and his production wasn't amazing at Oregon his last year. I mean, Oregon was a great team and they had a bunch of weapons, so it wasn't just one guy getting all the targets. But it's a very big boom or bust pick. He kind of reminds me of OJ Howard, who the Buccaneers drafted a while ago out of Alabama. Super athletic tight end, very boomer bust. Didn't work out in the NFL. The production wasn't there. I don't think he fits. Or maybe if we signed two blocking tight ends and we didn't re-sign Mark Andrews, maybe I'd give a chance for him to be our receiving tight end. But I just don't think he fits what we need, and I'm not sure he's going to really pan out as well in the NFL. Um, tackle tackles this year are kind of interesting. A lot of tackles are right tackles in college who don't have the athleticism or the arm length that to be a great right tackle in the NFL and are going to have to end up moving as right guard. Um, and there really is no top tier left tackle that you would take in the top five or maybe even the top 10. Maybe Monroe Freeling. The Browns like him a lot because they need a left tackle. I think it seems like NFL GMs like him a lot more than some of like the NFL analysts. It would be an interesting idea for someone like a Monroe Freeling or a Caden Proctor, who's a left tackle. If Ronnie Stanley, I think he's either a free agent next year or the year after, and he's also in his 30s. Um, you think you don't want to sign him, or his production might dip, or he might even retire. Maybe you take one of those two tackles, have them play left guard, move John Simpson to right guard, and then when you move out from Ronnie, you move that guy to left guard and then or left tackle, and then get your guard next year. That way you have a rookie left tackle, leave a lot more money to pay other positions, and you just get younger at the position. I'm not sure how good Monroe Freeling would make a guard for 1 year. Caden Proctor, I could see could be a pretty good guard, but he has some issues in terms of how productive I think he'll be. He could be a good trade back candidate if the Ravens want to go that route. Um, Another tackle, Spencer Fano. I have you at the Dolphins. I could very much see him being with the Ravens. And my gut kind of feels like they'll go Spencer Fano. He's a very Ravens pick. A right tackle. He's probably not going to be a great right tackle, so they'll probably push him to right guard. But with Spencer Fano is he's pretty athletic and he can play all five positions. Some of the teams are even testing him to see if he can play as a center. So he could play center, he could play guard, he could go at right tackle. So if any injuries happen on the line, I know the Ravens value versatility a lot, and he could be a guy that fits that bill. And he kind of fits our scheme. I think our new running scheme, we want to have more athletic guards, and he's one of the more athletic linemen in the draft. The guy I wanted, I have been talking about for weeks, is Ione, the Penn State guard. Not only do I think he's the best guard in the draft, I think he's the best overall offensive lineman. I'm a little bit worried. I think the Dolphins could maybe take him instead of Spencer Fano at 11 if they just want to get the best offensive tackle in general. The thing with Ione versus Fano is Ione is your right guard. He won't really move around the offensive line. He's that position, but he will get that right guard position. He will be the best right guard. With Fano, I think he'll still be a good right guard, but maybe he plays center for us. Maybe he plays right tackle if an injury happens, or we can move him around. And if an injury happens, we have that flexibility. But we do have Emory Jones, who could play right tackle, who could play right guard. He might end up being our backup swing offensive lineman. So we kind of do already have one, like a lesser Spencer Fano, but my pick of who I really want is I only get the offensive line the best weapon he can get or the best protector, and I don't want to have to deal with guard again for another 5, 10 years. Um, Centers, there are no centers really in the first round, but we'll get to center later. In terms of defense, tackle, we don't really need anymore because Mads seems like he's coming back, and I don't really see a tackle here that I want to take in the first round, especially at 14. I think these guys are a lot more very end of the first round, second round players. Edge is a little bit interesting. The top edges will most likely be gone. Maybe Ruben Bain drops. They won't be there at 14, but there are a couple of first round picks. Maybe you take them at 14, maybe you trade back that are kind of interesting. Keldrick Falk is a little bit more raw. He's a very good run defender, and the Ravens seem to value stopping the run a lot more than other teams. But in terms of his pass rush ability, it's not amazing. And he's still a first round grade edge player, but it could definitely take some work and some training to be able to get to where we need him to be. Mesidor out of Miami is a very intriguing prospect. he is 25 years old. And a lot of these rookies are all going to be 21, 22 years. So the years of him being in his prime is a lot, and it's shortened by a lot. By the time his rookie contract ends, he'll be 31. So you're not getting a whole bunch out of him in terms of his career, but in terms of a day one player, because he's already polished, he's already has those reps. He will be the best pass rusher for like that day one. So if the Ravens think they want to go win now, right now, he could be an edge rusher. He does have some injury risks. There are some issues of maybe does his game translate to the NFL. Um, but I could see that being a pick because how much having two pass rushers impacts Jesse Minter's defensive scheme. He was a Chargers DC when they traded for Odafe Owe, and the reason they did that is because they used to have Joey Bosa and I'm blanking on his name, but the other guy that used to be on the Bears and the Raiders, Khalil Mack. And Joey Bosa left in free agency, and the defense had like a notable impact by not having those two edge rushers. And do you trust Mike Green to take that next step? I think he was a very raw prospect that he wasn't going to be able to be his best self year one. So you'll have to see can Jesse Minter get the best of Mike Green year two. If you don't think that's going to happen, I think in order for his defense to be the best defense, you'd want to take a look at pass rusher. A guy that could sneak into the first round is Malachi Lawrence. Intriguing prospect. He has some pretty good pass rushing tools and moves in his ability. He was being projected in the second round, but I've seen him being moved up to the first round a lot. So maybe that's a trade back candidate. I mean, these two could be trade back candidates, but this is a guy I think is going to be a huge um, jumping up on the boards. I think he'll be going from day two to day one. So he could be an idea for us later in that draft. Linebacker, I don't really think we need, especially not in the first round. Corner could be maybe an interesting idea. The only corner I think that might be there is Gerard McCoy. He tore his ACL beginning of the 25 season, did not play his 25 season, but his 2024 tape is so good that he is being projected as a top 10, top 15 pick. And I think if he played the way he did in 24 and 25, he could even be the number one corner off the board, possibly. He should be doing his pro day sometime this week, if not already happened. So I think we'll see how healthy he is. But Marlon Humphrey has kind of taken a step back in terms of his production, and he is a free agent next year. Our depth at corner kind of scares me. We do have Owizie as our third. But if something happens to Wiggins or Humphrey, it could be a liability. Or being our corners could be a liability. So, do you want to get ahead of the curve and have a solution for when Humphrey leaves if that's what the Ravens decide to do, or if we get an injury, that could be an option at the first round, and I wouldn't be totally mad just because how good he was in 2024. And obviously safety, we don't really need. We have our three safeties. I think we have some younger guys that we want to develop. So I don't really see that even being drafted. Maybe the later picks, if a guy is that good, we take him. In terms of my day two and day three picks, for wide receiver, I really like Chris Brazel from Tennessee. He's a bigger wide receiver. He would be that contested catch guy that Lamar really hasn't had in his career. I see him being taken early second round. But I wouldn't mind if he's there at our pick. I think that'd be a good pick. I have a lot of buzz about Chris Bell. Chris Bell could fit what we're trying to get a wide receiver. Ted Hurst, maybe a third round pick, could be there. Skylar Bell, really like his tape. As Caleb knows, Steve Smith really has him as high regard. He could be in the third round. Lane out of USC could be a third round pick. The thing with these wide receivers is each of these day two and day three wide receivers are so unique from each other in terms of their skill set that one wide receiver may be a perfect fit for one team, but be not a good scheme fit, or just they already had that position taken or that skill set taken care for another team. So your draft board for these wide receivers is going to look a lot different throughout the league, and that's generally how it is in regards to just day two or day three picks in general. A guy that one team might have as a second round prospect, another team might have as a fourth round prospect. So trying to guess what players are going to be there in day two and day three is pretty tricky just because of how dynamic these boards are across the league. Um, but I think we'll definitely probably go if D Hop isn't in our plans to be signed. I think we probably go one of those later round wide receivers. This year's tight end class is very, very deep. And as much as I would love David Njoku, I think, you know, you don't have to spend a draft pick as tight end and move to other areas. Um, I think we'll find a pretty good tight end. Oscar Delp and Max Clare are the bottom of the second round, top of the third round tight ends that I really like. Good pass blockers, good run blockers, and they're pretty good at catching the ball. Eli Stowers is an interesting prospect. He's super athletic. He tested phenomenal at the combine. Cannot run block, cannot pass block. He's basically just a wide receiver. So think almost of Kenyan Sadiq. Um, but if he's there at day two or day three, I think he would be an interesting pick to get that weapon for Lamar. I just think we need that blocking aspect so badly that I think an Oscar Delp or Max Clare makes a lot more sense. And maybe a day three pick, the Texas guy, Jack Endries, I think is a pretty solid tight end. Might take a little bit of time to develop, but if he's there day three, I mean, hey, Ravens always seem to take two tight ends, so maybe that's how we go again. Um, Offensive tackle, I haven't taken a look at too much of the day two, day three picks, but thing is investing in a swing tackle in case Ronnie Stanley or right tackle, whatever his name is, but gets injured, you know, if we need him for a game or two when our offensive line won't collapse. So the only guy I kind of like as a backup tackle role is the Penn State guy. Where is he? Can't even find him. Oh yeah, Drew Sheldon. I think could be a pretty good backup tackle if you get that day three pick. We did draft a couple of them last year. Some of them kind of didn't pan out. I guess we'll have to see if they take that next step in training camp this year, but I think that could be a position you want to take a look at. Guard is also a really deep class this year. Chase Escontes, I think that's how you pronounce it. Texas A&M, great pick that could be there. Maybe taken end of the first round, top of the second, but I like him as guard. Emmanuel Pregon out of Oregon, I think is pretty good. Jalen Rutledge, I think fits our scheme a little bit better. Out of Georgia Tech, could be there. Second round, maybe even third. Probably not third, but second round. Both of the IO guards I really like. Dunker and Stevens, who could be there day three. Jalen Farmer, I like a lot of the Kentucky. He plays pretty good Ravens type of football. Could be there at day three to be a guard. So even if we don't take a guard at day one, I think they're pretty good prospects. I could be there at day two. The only thing is, I think so many teams need guards and centers and interior linemen that I think people will reach to be able to get that position. So if we get Iona day one, I think that would just be, you don't have to worry about that day two or day three. Center is also a pretty deep position group this year. Usually you don't draft center with your first round pick, and maybe you begin to think about the second round pick. But a lot of these centers, I think, will definitely be there in a second round pick, and then we'll probably start to get drafted around a third round pick. So Sam Hecht I think he had an ACL tear. He's rehabbing, but I think he is a guy who would be the most day one ready to be an NFL center. Connor Lew, I like a lot. He's one of my top prospects. Brian Parker, I think he could also even play guard, but he could be an interesting pick day three, day two, day three. Two guys I've seen a lot of link with the Ravens is Logan Jones and Jake Slaughter. Logan Jones went to Iowa, just like Lindenbaum, and he's an undersized guard. Has great hands. He has great length. I've been seeing a lot of analysts really like him. Could take a little bit of time to develop. That's kind of thing, especially how important center is and how center is with the connection to Lamar is, you know, we feel like we're in a win now team. So how long is it going to take for that center to get to where we need him to be? I think he'll eventually get there by year two, most likely, but can he get there by at least by the halfway point of this year? And then Jake Slaughter again, I think could be a pretty solid day three pick. Has a lot of snaps, has a lot of reps. But a bit more on the more, I guess, the lower on the board. Defensively, tackle, I haven't taken a look at a whole bunch. Christian Miller is a guy I really like. He'll probably be a day two pick. I think he'll be a really good tackle, and I think he fits the Ravens. Um, Edge, there's probably a decent amount of day two picks for Edge. The thing is, like, if he's a sure good thing, he's taken in the first round. If he's going to be some guy that you develop and more of a boomer bust, he'll be a second round pick. And we have Mike Green. We took Mike Green. So if you trust him, we don't really need that. But how important that position is to Jesse Minter, um, and Malachi Lawrence is there. I would love that pick. Cassius Howell probably goes to the end of the first round, top of the second. His arm length is also kind of a bit of a concern. I don't know if he translates to the NFL, to be honest with you. He's a pretty big boomer bust. Same thing with Mason Thomas, big boomer bust, a guy that needs to develop. Derek Moore, I like out of Michigan. He has some pretty interesting tape, but again, very raw. Will his play style translate to the NFL? One guy I do like a lot. I love my Penn State guys. So I watch a lot of Penn State football, but starting to feel like a guy you might be able to get in the third round, and he could be a pretty good rotational guy. He might not be your number one edge player, but the Ravens haven't had a great edge presence, let alone a great rotational edge. So he's kind of a guy that I feel like if he's there day three, I would say the ability he has and his measurements, I definitely warrant him being taken there. Linebacker probably don't need. Um, Cornerback, I like the Miami guy, Scott. His tape is phenomenal. It's just a matter of do you think it'll translate to the NFL? So maybe if you want to go answer that Marlon Humphrey question, the second or third round. I don't know if he'll be there in the third round, but he's a guy I like there a lot. Um, Safety, I don't really think we're probably going to end up drafting. We have a bunch of safeties. In terms of fullbacks, kickers, and punters, usually they go undrafted. It's pretty rare. We drafted Tyler Loop with the fifth round pick. That's usually pretty high. I think we'll probably draft a punter. There isn't anyone super exceptional coming out of the special teams group. They're all pretty good. They're all kind of the same. So I think it's just a matter of what the coaching likes. A fullback, there are a couple of guys that I like. I don't think they show a fullback in the mock drafts, but probably be a guy we take fifth, sixth, seventh is when you'll start taking those special teams. And obviously, we need a fullback. We need a punter. We probably need some kicking competition. So kicking will probably go undrafted. Punter and fullback, we probably draft in later rounds, is what I'm thinking. Um, but if it was up to me, if I could kind of control what the draft happening, and if I was a GM, I would go Ione, first round pick. The second round pick, I would trade back into like the middle and the later rounds of the second round pick. And when some of the picks we get back, use a third round pick to trade up to the bottom of the second or the top of the third. And then I would go Oscar Delp with one of those picks, and then I would go Connor Lew with one of those picks. I think that's kind of their range is bottom of the second, top of the third. So we can trade back, get picks to be able to get both of our picks in that area. I think go and get the best center, go and get the best blocking tight end, and go and get the best guard. Um, Usually the Ravens don't like to go three straight positions on one side of the ball, but defensively, it kind of feels like the only one we would want to take with a first round pick is a pass rusher, and I just don't see unless we trade back and Minter loves someone. I don't really see one of these top pass rushers being there at 14. Um, and before I end the video, just for the sake of Caleb, I will talk about the Seahawks. I think they go either corner or guard. So again, um, guards seem like they had their own um, hiccups with one of their players. Chase out of Texas, he might go with the Texans. The Texans need offensive line bad, but I think he would be a phenomenal pick there at 32 if you can get him. But yeah, these top three guards could really be high impact players for the Seahawks. Cornerback, maybe. I'm not the biggest fan of Colton Hood. I don't think he'll translate to the NFL. But the guy from South Carolina, Pons, San Diego guy, I think will be interesting picks. Maybe even trade back into the top of the second, get a couple picks back, and take one of these corners. The Clemson guy got an injury pretty recently, and I think he's going to fall into the later parts of the second round. So I don't know if you guys would want to take him. Um, and there really is no running backs. Actually, I'll talk about for the Ravens and the Seahawks, I guess. because really, Seahawks obviously need a running back. I don't think there is a first round grade running back. I think the what am I trying to say? From from Jeremiah Love all the way to the next running back, I think it's such a big gap that I just don't see there being a first round running back. Maybe Price out of Notre Dame could be a guy you want to target. I don't know if he'll be there at the bottom of the second. For the Ravens, I think we definitely need a running back. Keaton Mitchell left. You know, Derrick Henry is getting a bit older, so do you want to really use him all that much and make sure he's ready for the playoffs? Justice Hill and Ollie are basically receiving backs and blocking backs, so it's kind of things where it's like if Derrick Henry is in, you know we're running. If Justice Hill is in, you know it's passing. So do you want another guy? I think Ernest Jones has some nice explosive ability. If you watch the tape, he could maybe be a Keaton Mitchell type of player. Um, Penn State again, I'm gonna go Katron Allen. I love the tape. I love the production. I don't think he'll be like a number one back in the league. I think he's more of a rotational back, but for a guy where Derrick Henry is our lead back and maybe we want to give him some rest every now and then, or maybe we just need him for a game or two for an injury, I think he would be a pretty good day three pick for us. I just think he was so phenomenal in college. I would keep an eye on him and see where he goes. Um, and before I end the video, I'm gonna make one huge what am I trying to say? A hot take. They were extremely a hot take. Probably not gonna happen, but just for the sake of it being fun, my hot take is I think the Eagles trade AJ Brown to the Patriots for this 31st pick. For the 23rd pick, I think they go wide receiver. And then with that 31st pick they get from the trade, I think they go Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Bama. Um, I think they're going to do what they did with Carson Wentz when they traded Jalen Hurts. I think the organization kind of knows that Jalen Hurts is more of a game manager than a guy that you can really trust to go win the game for you. And you're already paying him a huge contract. So it's almost like a reset a little bit where AJ Brown, you don't have to pay anymore. And Jalen Hurts, you don't have to pay more. You get that fifth year option and that rookie contract and Ty Simpson. Um, and you get to be able to build around that and then get that money. Ty Simpson, just talking about quarterbacks, because they might not even be a second quarterback taken in the first round. He might go top of the second. Maybe a team trades up for him at the top or the bottom of the first. Ran a pro style offense at Bama. He can make those NFL reads and run an NFL offense. His questions are he only played one season as a starter, so does he have enough reps to be able to go in? The most important thing, especially for a quarterback, is how many reps you have. It always seems like quarterbacks that have a lot more reps when your top prospects are a lot more successful than quarterbacks that don't have that much reps. And his arm is a little bit questionable. Um, but you know, if you build a team where you have a phenomenal defense and you have those pieces around you, and you're not asking Ty Simpson to do a whole lot, that could almost be a bit of a mini rebuild for the Eagles to get back into a Super Bowl team. All right, so that's my video.